Welcome everyone to my channel, Beth Bell Live. I'm always happy to have you here. It's Sunday, 11:11 Pacific time. And if you're joining me live, I would love to know what's on your heart and in your mind. Please feel free to write in the comments a question. If you happen to be watching on replay, you can also ask questions in the comments, or you can go over to bethbell.me/question and submit your question there. It's a little bit more private, but I always love to have your engagement here because a lot of times the questions you have are questions that many other viewers have as well. And it's also fun because there ends up sort of being a thread oftentimes each show. So anything that's weighing heavy on your heart, or maybe keeping you up at night and it's on your mind, it's still interlinked with what's happening in your heart space. So anything about relationships, to love, to life, in romance, work, friends, family, it all causes us heartbreak and heartache at times. And so let's get the lessons and let's work through it. So each week on the show, I answer questions that help you just move through the lessons that people and relationships are bringing to you so that you don't have to continue to repeat them. That's always the trick, isn't it? To grow from each and every person that's in our life and every situation that comes our way. I do have a little bit extra love in my heart for heartbreak because I know how difficult it can be. So if there's something that's breaking your heart today, please put it in the comments and we'll address it, or if it's just something in general. So I'm happy to have you all here. I'm going to jump into the first question that I have that's pre-submitted, but I'm happy to put anyone in queue who's watching live if you have a burning question on your heart. All right. So let's see. I'm going to jump for, I've got one coming in. Let's see if I can jump onto this right now. All right. So Beth, my dear, what's the biggest conflict you've had with a friend or a loved one? Did you cut them out of your life, or did you change part of yourself to make the relationship with that person work? What a great question. I've had a lot of relationships in my life, whether it's friends, family. I think the question here, and you can clarify for me it says with a friend or a loved one. So yeah, I've had a lot of friends that I've had a conflict with. And I would say there's a lot of different ways that I approach this. I think the most important thing is not necessarily to cut people out of our life, but to get the deeper lesson as to why they're in our life and why the conflict happened. Because a lot of times what happens for us is we attract people into our life that's helping us with our own wound or our own trauma, or just a really lovely experience that we're calling in to have in our life to help us grow. And so I think it's more about getting deep into what is the deeper meaning behind that conflict. And once we get to the conflict and what the emotion is behind it, and what that conflict is asking us to heal, then we can start to make a choice as to whether we're gonna have someone stay in our life or have someone go out of our life. Because we have people that come in, what is the phrase, a reason, a season, a lifetime. And so sometimes people are in our life for a lifetime, and in other cases they're sort of a passing person, and it doesn't mean that they're not a very important person to us. But sometimes when we're not on the same level of awareness and growth and wanting to grow, then sometimes those people sort of earn the right to leave our life. And I say that from a very loving place. It doesn't mean that we have to kick or bump somebody out of our life. It means that we're making a conscious choice. And the more we can have communication with that person, even better, because that way then they're understanding why perhaps you're not spending as much time with them, or you're choosing not to have a deeper relationship with them moving forward. And then they can take from that what's really in the relationship for them as well, right? The more we communicate, the more we can learn and we can grow from each other, as opposed to just, really bumping someone out of our life or just leaving them behind and saying, I don't want to be part of that anymore. So I really think it comes back to communication. So yes, I've certainly had a lot of people in my life that I've had conflict with, and they've stayed, and they've been, my trusted confidants. moving forward. And then I've had people that I've had conflict with, and I just said, this is a time and a space and a place that we're in a different alignment, and we're not aligned. And so we're not going to spend the time to continue to work through a relationship that's not actually adding something for us. So hopefully that's helpful, and I'm happy to add to that. So please, let me know if you want a little bit more on that in regards to conflict and how to work through that. Okay, and thank you for your thanks for being on the show. Okay, let's go to the next question. I've been questioning a past relationship lately. I'm not sure why. He keeps coming to mind, although we haven't spoken in about a year. Is it a bad idea to reach out and touch base? Yeah, this is a tricky one. I think, a lot of reasons that we break up or we are not in a relationship is very legit. And so to go back to a relationship oftentimes is not really for our highest good. Only ultimately, if this makes sense to go back to. But what's coming to me to share is that it's more important that you go back to the relationship in your mind and in your heart space and go in there and figure out, well, why is this person resurfacing? Because it may be that you just need to bring more awareness about the lessons that person was there to teach you. I would not, I'm feeling like I would not reach, because your last question was, is it a bad idea to reach out and touch base? And I would say I would not reach out to them at this point in time. I would stay very focused on your own inner journey as to why is this person coming up? The mind oftentimes has a really tricky mechanism as well, that when we get an idea about something, sometimes our mind wants to stick on that idea and like bring it up over and over and over and over again. So I would reflect on that as well. Is this just my mind? Am I thinking about this person because I am just simply lonely? Am I, what is like the deeper reason? Now, it may be that it's very mysterious and that it's actually, you're actually seeing things and things are coming forward because you need to put your attention back on the lessons from that person. So it's very specific. And I'm getting for you specifically a no on reaching out to them until you've done the deeper inner work. And after all of that, if you feel that there's a reason to then reach out to them, because it may be that you have been doing the work. I feel like you have been doing the work, and that you want to communicate forgiveness, or maybe it's forgiveness of yourself. So in that case, once you get to that place, I would say, yeah, absolutely. Why not reach out to them? What I'm feeling is that it's not a time to reach out to them to try to rekindle or to work through something with them. It feels like it's a very private time for you to do the work for you. And then if you do get to that space, like I said, where you want to share something specific about a lesson that you've learned, then I think that's a good, healthy thing to do. But go into it with a very specific intention, and not just reaching out to say, oh, hi. I think the intention behind it will be very fruitful for you if you sit with that first. And my intention is, I'm making this up, but I'm thinking that this is where it might be heading. My intention is to share the lessons that I've learned and to ask for forgiveness or to forgive myself. And then that will really, I think, drive the communication and the energy that comes through to the other person when you reach out to them. It's really important that your intention gets really clear and isn't muddy. Hopefully that's helpful as well. Okay. All right. So as a follow-up, when you see people you've cut out of your life have moved on without you, do you feel left out? Can you go into the feeling of feeling left out and knowing you're not left out? I think the reality is that we're always connected to everyone and everything. I know that's a big concept to say that. So I'm going to try to get into that a little bit more. That person that was in your life will never officially be cut out because you have memories and you have a connection to them. You shared experiences with them. So from that perspective, they're not technically cut out. They're a part of the painting on the canvas, if you will. And so I don't think that we're cutting out people. We're learning the lessons and moving forward. Um, can you go into the feeling of feeling left out and knowing you're not left out? Yes and no. I think that again, it's the way that maybe you're framing the question that I would go back to a little bit, because if you're in a healthy place with why you're not in a relationship with this person at whatever level, maybe you're not even friends anymore. Maybe it was a previous lover, or and you're not even in their life. Again, I would focus more on the deeper lessons of the memories and the experiences. And if you can be in a place where you see them with someone else and they're happy, I think you being happy for them is the best thing that you can do for you and for them all at the same time. Because that connection of love, and I don't mean it has to be romantic love. In fact, I actually don't mean romantic love, but I just mean like that pureness of, I just want you to be happy and I just want me to be happy. And I just want to be in that blissfully neutral state with what our relationship was and what our relationship is now, which may be really nothing when it comes to like daily activities or communication. Like it might, actually be very disconnected in that feeling. But when you can just project love out to others and be happy for them, your happiness is also going to be in a really wonderful place. So hopefully that's helpful. I don't think you have to feel left out. And I hope that you don't feel left out, because I think it's so much better when you can feel like, hey, I know that my relationship with that person contributed something positive. And in some cases, maybe it felt like something negative, but it contributed to who they are today and who they are with now. And when we get into that space and that place where we're just really genuinely happy for others, then it is a great place for us as well. Okay, let's keep moving along. All right. Do you have any tips for communicating with someone who always ignores and shuts down difficult conversations? Yes. I would really dig into this to see why. Okay, I'm just going to say what's coming and let me just talk it out, because sometimes I feel like things are a little bit abrupt. But why are you with this person is what comes to me to say. And why I say that is, if you're having, if you have an ability to be open and to really want to talk about difficult conversations, you want to be with someone who can have those difficult conversations too. Now, I know sometimes that's hard. I'm not saying like break up with the person, or I'm not saying anything like that that's super drastic. I'm just suggesting that there's something deeper there. Like if that person's really not interested in going deeper, I would just say, well, then where is the depth in the relationship? Now, with that said, there's also another component that when we come from a very compassionate, loving place, we go, oh, okay, they're having a difficult time. And so how we approach them with this is, honey, again, use your words. Honey, I feel like I need in this relationship to have the difficult conversations, because those are the things that are going to get us through to the next level in our relationship. And if you're not wanting or willing to allow yourself to be vulnerable, we have to come at this from another way. How can I help you be more vulnerable? How can I create a safer space for you to feel like we can have this difficult conversation? And see what they say. Now, another way you can approach this is sometimes using our words, and especially as women, I'm not feeling this exactly in this situation, but as women, I can say that we oftentimes are a little bit more emotional. And so sometimes we don't want to have the difficult conversations because we don't want to get emotional. Again, I'm not necessarily feeling that for you, but why I'm saying it is that your partner may have that same thing where they don't want to get into the difficult conversation because it creates too much vulnerability. And so having a way to approach them that's softer. Also, what's coming is touch appropriately, that you put your hand on their leg, you hold their hand and you say, let's create a safe space together. Okay, so here was the other thing I was leading to is sometimes it's easier if you write things down. So you might be able to say to each other, let's just write down, what's heavy on our hearts and see where they're at. Like, can they write it down? Because maybe they can't say it. There's a lot of people that cannot articulate their emotions. So for me, I'm getting the most important thing for you is to not run away from it. And I know you're not planning to, because in the beginning I said, why are you with them? Because that's what came out. But it's more about how can we create a safe space? How can we be vulnerable together? And if we're not able to be vulnerable together, is this really the relationship that's going to get us both to the next level of sharing the depths of our soul together? And if they don't have that interest, because I feel like you do, if they don't have that interest, and maybe that's kind of looping back around to why Spirit was just sort of saying like, well, then why are you with them? Because you may be evolving at a different rate and in a different place than they are. And again, it doesn't always mean that we leave our loved ones. It means that we have to continue to have those conversations to see, hey, can you be vulnerable with me? What can I do to create that safe space? All right. Hopefully that's helpful. Please feel free to add more in here if there's an area that you want me to go a little bit deeper into. I would say having the safe space, encouraging vulnerability, and writing some things down, what's heavy on your heart or heavy in your mind before coming to this place of communication and having touch appropriately so that you can feel the love between you and not just the discord. And I'll add one more thing, that a lot of times the conversation can be so much more productive when you're in a neutral state. And what I mean by that is that you're not in the heat of the moment, but in the heat of the moment, you can still say, hey, we're in the heat of the moment. Let's just take a moment. Let's go write something down. Let's just reflect on this and come up with whatever question feels appropriate that you can then come back and, hey, let's come back to this later today. Or let's come back to this after we've written it down. Hey, are we in a space where our emotions are, we don't have to shut them down, of course, but just like a little bit more neutral so that we don't end up saying things that don't create that safe, vulnerable space for each other to share what's really heavy on your heart. Okay, let's move along here. Okay, here's another question from the live audience. I love that you guys are so engaged. Some people in my past relationships had reached out to me in the past. A few of them were looking for forgiveness. I personally did not appreciate. I think it is best to forgive yourself without involving someone who is not in your current life. Yes. And then I see there's a continuation here that says, definitely agree with doing our own work before involving others in the journey. Yeah. So thank you for making that comment, because I think that's where I was headed with that, is to do your own work and to really find that place of forgiveness within yourself. And there's sometimes when speaking that to another person is helpful. And so in your case, it sounds like it wasn't as helpful for someone to reach out to you. And I don't want to make a judgment about it, because I'm not sure that I'm in that energy to read that person in this moment. But I would say as a blanket that sometimes people use, okay, actually what's coming to me now specific to this is that the person used the forgiveness potentially as a way to reach out to you, but that wasn't their deeper intention. That's what's coming for your situation. So again, that's why it's so important to have a clear intention. And if that person's intention was something other than actually really, really doing the forgiveness aspect, then it might have felt a little off. And if you guys hadn't come to a place. So, here's another thing, Liz, it's really coming in strong that for you, feel into why that didn't feel good. Why did that not feel good when that person called to share something about forgiveness, and sort of let them off the hook, meaning try to not spend as much time in their energy and like why they did it, and just feel into like, why did that not feel good for me? And then get really clear on the boundaries you need for maybe this relationship in the event that they reach out again, or for future relationships. That there's a boundary thing there that feels like is coming forward for you, that they were able to still, penetrate through, like poke through to get to you. And so, yeah, that's like, okay, energetically, I'm going like this. You can't see me, but I feel like it's like in your third chakra, like in your home space, your safety space, your soul space, and that there might have been a little bit of a violation of your own boundaries there. And so it's just asking you to have healthier boundaries energetically as well, so that other people, that if you're complete with this person, that your energetic boundaries doesn't give them the energy to come in. Hopefully that's helpful. I feel like there was a lot that was just coming through, and sometimes I don't always get all the words specifically out there. So please, jump in if there's something more I can help you with on that. Okay, so here's another question. Do you have a security blanket for when you feel left out or stuck in a bad relationship, such as a shawl, a sweater, you tie around your neck, or anything that gives you a sense of safety and protection? No, actually, our most important way, no, might not be the right words, is to connect to source, to connect to our higher self, to connect to who we are in a much greater sense, and to not be, you can, if those things work for you, of course, go for it. But I think your question was very specific to me. And I do not have those items. I have the connection to source, and I go to that connection through meditation. I go to that connection through quieting the mind. I go to that connection by not being attached to anything here in this earth plane. I'm still grounded in my body. I'm still here. I'm still aware, but I am connecting to a source that's so much bigger than the body and bigger than any object that could bring that safety. But again, if that feels safe for you, then I think it's good to have something that can bring that to you, and that can make you feel not alone in the universe. There is nothing wrong with signs and symbols. It's always just back to that, like, let's not be attached to that. Because then, when we lose something like a shawl or, whatever it is, then that can create trauma. And the whole point is to have that real connection within ourself and our higher self, so that we can, just really stay into a beautiful energy of knowing thyself, as opposed to identifying with things that are in our external world and reality. Okay, let's go on here. Okay, so back to the forgiveness. Thank you for tuning in here and clarifying. I feel like they used me to feel better for themselves. Yes, that's exactly what I was getting for you. That's why that came. No concern for my placement. Yes, for sure, a violation of boundaries. Creating more clear boundaries is going to be my next work. Thank you. Yes, thank you. And so I'm glad that resonated, because it did feel like that. So let's just be happy that, and I know that you are happy in the sense that you're so good at taking the lessons. Let's be happy that they reached out, because it gave us, oh yeah, okay, there's a little cleanup on aisle 7 for for boundaries, sometimes in real life boundaries and sometimes energetic boundaries. So that's a really important distinction, because energetically people impact us. There's a story that I tell in my book, Angels, Herpes, and Psychedelics, about a time where I had no idea what it meant to be psychically attacked. I was like, what? And a dear friend of mine at the time brought forward the concept of this, and I was like, what is that? And so I also feel like for you, because you're at a place where you're more evolved and you're continuing to evolve, that energetically there is I think another level that you can go to that protects yourself. Now, everyone should feel into like what works best for them, but I'm feeling for you specifically that you might want to envision a bubble of light. And this was, in my book, where I described where I was first exposed to this and how people can actually impact us, because they're on our ethereal life cords. and they can impact us energetically. And how I was told to put this bubble of light around myself, and I use that even to this day. And I use it even more today than I ever did before, because it took me a while to actually, believe in this stuff, because I felt like, yeah, what? As spiritual as I was, and this was many years ago, my mind was still questioning, like, what are you talking about? A white, bright light, and, a purple bubble, and all of this. And today I use this. I use this a lot. And I use it not out of fear. I use it out of respect for my own energy field, because I know that as we get brighter and we put ourselves out there more and more and more, and we want to help others, that if we don't have that beautiful protection mechanism in place, we can get sucked. I mean, we know how it is. We can walk into a room and there's energetic vampires. So we can feel great walking in, have interactions with people, and then walk away and go, wait, what just happened? And that's an energetic vampire type mechanism that can be conscious or subconsciously happening for other people with you. So I feel for you, really tune in to what is that beautiful, protective, energetic bubble that I can use for myself. And again, really importantly, not out of fear, but out of just, your own glow and your own love and your own light. All right. Okay, so let's keep moving on. And I so appreciate all the wonderful live interaction. Okay, so I'm going to skip here, and I'll come back to this one if we have time, because I think some of the questions that came in live are very similar. I want to have a deeper, more emotional connection with my spouse. It feels like we're great companions, but I want more, and not sure if it's possible to reignite emotions when we've been stale for quite some time. What do you think? Yes, absolutely. You can reignite anything in a relationship. It takes work. And so I think, again, there's a level of real commitment that this is going to take, because I don't know how long you've been married, but I'm guessing that there's been years of staleness. And so just like if we haven't been to the gym for many, many years, our muscle tone is a lot less. And so when we go back to the gym, we have to stay committed to rebuild those muscles. And so the same goes with igniting passion and intimacy in our life, because we get on a routine with our spouse, and we get comfortable, which is not a bad thing. It's just that when we're comfortable, we're not always igniting the fun and the unpredictability that brings so much passion to a relationship and excitement to a relationship. And so I would find ways to, in your just daily normal life, to shake up your schedule in a good way. Hey, let's come up with one thing that's going to change our routine for the positive. Maybe it's that, I don't know why this is coming, but maybe this is specific to you. Maybe it's that you drink 1 cup of coffee versus 2 cups of coffee because you want to calm your nervous system. Maybe it's that I am a matcha lover, so maybe you go to matcha and there's less caffeine and less jitters. Maybe you go to something more plant-based that still gives you a little bit of that boost in the morning, but doesn't create all the jitters. And maybe that creates a different energy and different dynamic. Now, I know that's just like a very simple example, but I think the more we can bring in some variety into our routine, it starts to awaken something within us that we go, oh, okay, well, let me change something else. But if we try to change like a bunch of things all at once, or we're like, oh, I just want to focus on, like, if this all has to be ignited, it's like, well, let's go back to the tinder. Let's go back to the little things that create the spark. Let's go back to the things that create excitement in our daily life, and not focus just on, how can I reignite all the passion that I had with my spouse when we first met? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying that the more we can start implementing new things in our life, we're going to find that it starts to open and expand in so many other great ways. So find things in your routine, and maybe it's a routine at night. Maybe it's that you want to spend a few minutes each night just sharing with each other what you feel grateful for. Maybe something that day that happened, maybe it's something specific about them. And maybe it's something that you continue to say night after night after night. I'm so grateful for your morning kiss, or the way that you touch me, or the way that you look at me. I'm so grateful for hug that you give me when we reconnect after a day's work. Those types of things can really be helpful to just start switching it up a little bit. Now, specific to the reigniting the emotions, I think this one is getting more into the intimacy realm, or at least that's what I was picking up from you. Everything we just talked about will help retrain your brain to look for new and exciting things, as opposed to focus on the companion, overdone routine things that your brain is automatically looking for is the routine. Then I would add something spicy in there for you and your partner, whatever spicy means to you. It might be that you just create a date night. It might be that you find something very specific that you want to add, like, hey, once a month, let's go to a concert. Because a concert brings a lot of energy, right? A lot of external environment stuff that creates creates a different environment, and an unpredictable environment, because you never know what a crowd is going to do at a concert. So I'm just giving examples. You can choose whatever works best for you, but the point is that you start to do things that put you out of your comfort zone and put you into something that's more unpredictable. And then your mind starts to look for the fun and the ignition of, oh, something fun is going to happen. Something fun is going to happen, as opposed to where you might be right now, which sounds like, oh, it's a routine. Oh, we're not igniting each other. And oh, well, I'm guessing, I'm feeling for you that, when you're going to try to ignite and kiss that partner, you're just not feeling the deeper emotional response to it. And so that's why I think changing some of these other elements of your relationship and your environment will really help you to just reignite within you the excitement. And there's other things you can do, like pick a sport that you've never done before that requires your brain to start coordinating you differently. Whether it's racquetball, is racquetball even a thing anymore? I don't know. I know everybody's doing pickleball, but there might be something, if you're close to the ocean, you could do an incredible activity together that gets you into a different routine, and a different, exposing you to different energies. And that is going to help ignite within you a somatic response, meaning like that you actually feel something more in your body, which is going to help you, back to your question, it's going to help you with the emotional connection, because the first thing you want to always do is to reconnect emotionally with yourself. And I feel that it's important for us to recognize that we think we're feeling something, but unless you're actually feeling it in your body, because we end up coming like this in our adulthood. As kids, we're very somatically placed within our body, unless we've experienced trauma early that creates a fight or flight, and creates us not wanting to be here, which happens for a lot of people too. But really, it's this, like, I'm an adult now, stop crying, stop feeling, analyze, strategize. Like, all those things are good, but what we don't have is the balance. We don't have the balance of the heart and the mind together, so that we stay in the body and that we feel those deeper emotions. So I know that kind of went off into a little bit more of a tangent, but I think it's an important one, because until you get your own physical body, and feeling yourself in your physical body, it's going to be more difficult for you to then reignite and reconnect, with others. So and another thing that's coming on that is, go back to the feelings of new love, whether it's new love romantically when you first met your partner, or maybe it's new love with a child, a baby that you had, or maybe it's new love with a puppy or a kitten that you adopted, or that you brought into your home. And that feeling that you have around that, and focus on that feeling and wanting to reignite that feeling. And I think you're going to find with those suggestions that this is going to be actually quite, I don't like to put time on it, but quick. It's going to be quick for you guys to really start to reignite things that are outside of your routine and normal patterns. Okay, I love that you asked the question, and if you're watching live, please jump in and add more to this. Okay, next question. I've been through a crazy year recovering from heartbreak. I'm still feeling lost. How can I rebuild my life when the person I thought was the one is gone? Well, they're obviously, I'm sorry to be a little bit gruff on this, but they're obviously not the one, because otherwise they would still be there. And I think there's a space in your heart that is still hanging on. As much I do feel that you've done a lot of work, so please don't get me wrong on that. But there's still something about this that you're hanging on to. And we have to feel into when we leave or someone else leaves. There's a beautiful reason for this. And a lot of times our mind focuses on the trauma of it, because it rips us apart. It rips us open when we lose a loved one, especially when we think it's the one. But what I would offer to you is that there is no one out there that is the one, because the one is actually within you. And that's like really where the true love is within you. And when you get that, in every relationship that over this lifetime and potentially many more lifetimes until you're a Buddha or a Gandhi or a Yogananda, all of these relationships are going to continue to be called into your life to help you anchor in to your own self-love. And it's such a overused comment sometimes, I think, self-love. But it is a place within you that you know that you are love, and that you're actually only here to experience your own love and to allow others to participate in this beautiful process called relationships, where you can exchange, where you can give and receive love. And all our relationships are only helping us to get to that more blissfully divine state of when giving and receiving are the same, so that it doesn't have to be conditional love, that it's unconditional love, that I'm giving to you from the depths of my heart. I'm receiving from you from the depths of my heart, and stopping the mind from wanting to make a judgment or if you do this, then I know you love me. Yeah, these are all fun symbols. So yes, you can still feel that, but don't be attached to that. Don't be attached to, if my person loves me, they would do, or they did this, therefore I know they love me. Those are fun things to reflect on, but that's not the thing to reflect on. And no one is the one other than you. And when we get to be in a relationship with someone, and we get to stay in a relationship with someone for the long term, for the short term, but let's say for the long term, then they're the one because you're in your own oneness, you're in your own love, and you guys are really bringing that together in a way that you are meant to continue to experience this great love. And if at some point you're not meant to experience that great love together, then we need to let people go. And that's where I feel like you're at, is still not wanting to let go of the fantasy that you built about this person. And I don't mean that lightly, and I don't mean it cynically. I mean that we do create fantasies about who someone else is, what they mean to us. And yet there's a more tender place and space to go to understand why they're in our life, and to be grateful that they're in our life, to really anchor in that feeling of gratefulness for whatever it is that they're offering us at the time that they're offering it. So yeah, it feels like there's just a little bit more there for you. I understand the lost part, feeling lost. And I think rebuilding your life you're doing it. You've already rebuilt it. And then now it's just a little bit more dusting off of letting go of the fantasy. Okay, what part of me is still fantasizing about this person being the one? And you're so close. And I'm also hoping that, because don't quite get it from this question, but that you are doing this last little bit of cleanup before you meet the next person, because then you can really come into this with a clean slate, an open heart, and not be harboring that loss, which is legit and real. So allow yourself to continue to feel the loss, but in the heart space, from a letting go perspective, not from the mind space of hanging on to what you wanted that relationship to be. All right. Okay, let's see. Is there any more coming in live? And I'll go back over here. Okay, I'm in a wonderful relationship. However, I have this fear of breakup, and my biggest worry is that I'll end up alone. Any thoughts on how to overcome this? I think innately most humans have a fear of being alone. I think there's also a difference in life stage of feeling like we're okay being alone. There's some people that have stepped into just a level of wisdom and awareness that they're oftentimes older and they're feeling like I'm totally fine to be alone. I know who I am. I've lived my life. I have my experiences. And a dear friend of mine is coming to mind right now that recently said this to me. And she's like, yeah, I'm totally fine being alone. And I think that's a beautiful space and place to be. However, I would say that a majority of people don't want to be alone because we are innately human, and human also involves having personal connection and for us to see ourselves reflected in others. So it's a place of that real awareness that we're never technically alone, that we're always connected to our higher self, we're connected to our guides, even if we think we're not, or you don't even know what I'm talking about. There are so many spirits and angels and entities that are around you and surrounding you all the time, and they're asking you to connect to them. They're saying, you ask us a question and we'll provide an answer. We'll provide the support and the love that you need. So I think that's so important to just start to understand that you are actually never alone, number one. But as a human, that feeling of aloneness can be really scary. And it's a calling for you to line up even more with your higher self, to line up with your heart space, because the fear of aloneness comes from the mind. The mind is creating an idea that you are alone. And oftentimes what happens is whatever your fear is, whether it's about being alone or it's this or it's that, then that's what you bring energetically to you. Most people's worst nightmare is oftentimes what happens because they have energy and there's an emotional charge behind that. And that's what the universe responds to, is your emotional charge. And it brings to you then those things that you actually don't want. So you want to get to a place where you're not focused on the fear of being alone, and that you're focused on the gratefulness of your heart space and the gratefulness of whoever it is in your life. Because you said you have a fear of breakup. You're in a wonderful relationship. So stay in that wonderful relationship space where you're grateful for the sharing and the caring that's happening right now. Stay focused on the now, not on, oh, what if we break up? Or, oh, what if I end up alone? Or what if? Stay very focused and heart-centered on the love that you're sharing with this wonderful relationship right now. And that's going to get you far in the current relationship, and just in your own mind quieting and not listening to that. There's like the cheerleader, and then there's also the critic. And the critic is just the one that's trying to come in on this and say that there's this possibility of being alone and that you should be scared of it. And you shouldn't be scared of it because you'll never be alone. Okay. Wow, we're down to the hour here. I think I've got time for just one more, though. I'm going to try to fit this in. Let's see if I can get to it. I regret divorcing my wife. It's complicated, but I'm not sure I can sweep this under the rug. Partly because I always dreamt we'd be like my parents and be married for over 50 years. Do you think I have a chance to get her back? What's coming is the dream from your external environment about your parents is a beautiful one, and it's wonderful if people can make it in a long-term committed relationship and build and grow. I'm also getting that your parents, I don't know your parents. And so if this is not for you specifically, it's for the collective. But there may be the possibility that that 50 years was actually quite torturous for both of them, and that they may have been better off divorcing earlier. So I don't know if I would hang on the idea of this long term, needed to be there for 50 years. It's beautiful if you can achieve that. The most important part is if you're growing and you're caring and you remain compassionate with each other during that time of your life. 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 50 years. So there's a reason why you got divorced. I would stay out of the questioning and the regret, that vibrational feeling of regret. And I'm always going to say, get back to the lessons, get back to the deeper lesson. What was it that your wife was bringing to you in the relationship? And what is it you're bringing to yourself by not being in the relationship anymore? And stay very focused on that, not on the regret, not on going back, not on whether you have a chance to get back with her. Honestly, I would say no. I don't know that that's the right thing for you, at least not now. And if something happens where you're both doing the deeper inner work, then you'll know. You'll know that it's time to go back to this relationship if it's ever meant to be. Oftentimes, most times, it's about moving forward, and it's about really leveraging in a beautiful way all the lessons that came, and then bringing in and calling in someone that takes you to another level, that doesn't like get you back in the past and get you back to the same triggers, but that allows you to release and let go of some of this, whatever it is for you that created the discord in the relationship. So I'm excited for you. I think that you're going to find that there's probably some really interesting people that come into your life as soon as you move beyond this regret, and stay more open to future possibilities as opposed to staying stuck in some of that past energy. All right. Each week. Okay, we've got, yes, thank you. Very helpful and insightful. Thank you. Thank you for tuning in, all of you on the show. I love having you here live. I love having you on replay. And if you have a question or you want more support, you want to go deeper, you can always go to bethbell.me. There's lots of ways that we can work together. I do spiritual advising in one-on-one sessions. You can even do a 30-minute session and just ask a question if you want more privacy, more dialogue, you want to get deeper into something. I'm here for you. There's also additional resources on bethbell.me. We've got the Awakening and Healing Handbook, which is a wonderful way to learn about a lot of different tips, tools, techniques, and modalities that can help you heal. There's also the Psychedelic Resource Guide, which is going to provide information on spiritual journeys and really leveraging a lot of plants and plant-based medicines for your awakening and growth. And there's also the Herpes Handbook. So it doesn't have to be just about the actual virus of herpes, but it's the mind viruses that we want to release and let go of. And there's lots of juicy tips in there. All right. Each week, 11:11 Sundays, Pacific time. I love to see you here. Please join me. And until next week, I am wishing you much bliss and love on the journey. Namaste.